I believe our RSS boys beat up Muslim gangs in all the cities. The Sikhs are doing their share. They have lost their manliness. They just talk big. Here we are on the border, with Muslims living in Sikh villages as if nothing has happened. Every morning and evening, the muezzin calls for prayer in the heart of the village like Mano Majra. You ask, you ask the Sikhs why they allow it, and they answer that Muslims are their brother. I am sure they are getting money from them. Hukum Chand ran his fingers across his receding forehead into his hair. Any of the Muslims in this area well to do? Not many, sir. Most of them are weavers or potters. But Chundu Nagar is said to be a good police station. There are so many murders, so many illicit distilling, and six peasants are prosperous. Your preceders have built themselves houses in the city. Your Honor, your Honor is making fun of me. I don't mind your taking whatever you take. Within reason, of course, everyone does that. Only be careful. This new government is talking very loudly of stamping out all this. After a few months in office, their enthusiasm will cool and things will go on as before. It is no use trying to change things overnight. They are not the ones to talk. Ask anyone coming from Delhi and he will tell you that all these Gandhi disciples are minting money. They are as good sent as the crane. They shut their eyes piously and stand on one leg like a yogi doing penance. As soon as a fish comes near, hurrup! Hukum Chand ordered the servant rubbing his feet to get some beer. As soon as they were alone, he put a friendly hand on the suspector's knee. You talk rashly like a child. It will get you into trouble one day. Your principle should be to see everything and say nothing. The world changes so rapidly that if you want to get on, you cannot afford to align yourself with any person or point of view. Even if you feel strongly about something, learn to keep silent. The sub inspector's heart warmed with gratitude. He wanted to provoke more paternal advice by irresponsible criticism. He knew that Hukum Chand agreed with him. Sometimes, sir, one cannot strain oneself. What do the Gandhi caps in Delhi know about the Punjab? What is happening on the other side in Pakistan does not matter to them. They have not lost their homes and belongings. They haven't had their mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters raped and murdered in the streets. Did your honor hear what the Muslims mob did to Hindu and Sikh refugees in the marketplace at Sheikhpura or Gujranwala? Pakistan police and the army took part in killings. Not a soul was left alive. Women killed their own children and jumped into wells that filled to the brim with corpus. Hare Ram, rejoined Hukum Chand with a deep sigh. I know it all. Our Hindu women are like that, so pure that they would rather commit suicide than a stranger touch them. We Hindus never raise our hands to strike women, but these Muslims have no respect for the weaker sex. But what are we to do about it? How long will it be before it starts here? I hope we do not get trains with corpses coming through Mano Majra. It will be impossible to prevent retaliation. We have hundreds of small Muslim villages all around. There are some Muslim families in every Sikh village like Mano Majra, said the sub-inspector, throwing a feeler. Hukum Chand sucked his cigarette noisily and snapped his fingers. We must maintain law and order, he answered after a pause. If possible, get the Muslims to go out peacefully. Nobody really benefits by bloodshed. But bad characters will get all the loot and the government will blame us for the killing. No, Inspector Sahib, whatever our views, and God alone knows what I would have done to these Pakistanis if I were not a government servant. We must not let there be any killing or destruction of property. Let them get out, but be careful they do not take too much with them. Hindus from Pakistan were stripped of all their belongings because before they were allowed to leave. Pakistani magistrates have become millionaires overnight. Some on our sides have not done too badly either. Only where there was killing or burning, the government suspended or transferred them. There must be no killing, just peaceful evacuation. The bearer brought a bottle of beer and put two glasses before Hukum Chand and the sub-inspector. The sub-inspector picked up his glass and put his hand over it, protesting, "No, sir, I could not be impertinent and drink in your presence." The magistrate dismissed the protest peremptorily. "You will have to join me. It is an order." Bearer, fill the Inspector Sahib's glass and lay out lunch for him. The sub-inspector held out his glass for the bearer to fill. "If you order me to, I cannot disobey." He began to relax. He took off his turban and put it on the table. It was not like a Sikh turban, which needed retying each time it was taken off. It was just 3 yards of starched khaki muslin wrapped around a blue skull cap, which could be put on and off like a hat. What is the solution in Mano Majra? All is well so far. The Lambardar reports regularly. No refugees have come through the village yet. I am sure no one in Mano Majra even knows that the British have left and the country is divided into Pakistan and Hindustan. Some of them know about Gandhi, but I doubt if anyone has ever heard of Jinnah. That is good. You must keep an eye on Mano Majra. It is the most important village on the border here. It is so close to the bridge. Are there any bad characters in the village? Only one, sir. His name is Jagga. Your Honor, confine him to the village. He reports himself to Lambardar every day and comes to police station once every week. Jagga. Which one is he? You must remember Jugat Singh, son of the dacoit Alam Singh who was hanged 2 years ago. He is that very big fellow. He is the tallest man in this area. He must be 6 foot 4 and broad. He is like a stud bull. Oh yes, I remember. What does he do to keep himself out of mischief? He used to come up before me in some case or other every month. The sub-inspector smiled broadly. Sir, what the police of the Punjab has failed to do, the magic of the eyes of the girl of 16 has done. Hukum Chand's interest was aroused. He is a liaison? He asked. With the Muslim weaver's daughter. She is dark, but her eyes are darker. She certainly keeps Jagga in the village, and no one dares say a word against the Muslims. Her blind father is the mullah of the mosque. The two drank their beer and smoked till the bearer brought in lunch. They continued drinking and eating and discussing the situation in the district till late in the afternoon. Beer and rich food made Hukum Chand heavy with sleep. Chicks on the veranda had been lowered to keep out the glare of the noonday sun. The panka flapped gently to and fro with a very plaintive creak. A feeling of numb drowsiness came over Hukum Chand. He got out his silver toothpick, picked his teeth, and rubbed the toothpick on the tablecloth. Even that did not help him ward off sleep. The sub-inspector noticed the magistrate nodding and stood up to take leave. Have I your permission to leave, sir? If you want to rest, you can find a bed here. You are very kind, sir, but I have a few things to attend to at the station. I will leave 2 constables here. If your honor desires my presence, they will inform me. Well, said the magistrate hesitantly, have you made any arrangements for the evening? Is it possible for me to have overlooked that? If she does not please you, you can have me dismissed from the service. I will tell the driver where to go and collect the party. The sub-inspector saluted and left. The magistrate stretched himself on the bed for a late afternoon siesta. Sound of the car leaving the bungalow woke Hukum Chand from his sleep. Pampa's stock chicks, which hung on the veranda, had been folded into large Swiss rolls and tied between the columns. The stark white of veranda was mellowed in the soft amber of the setting sun. The sweeper boy lay curled on the brick floor, clutching the pankaha rope in his hand. His father was sprinkling water all around the rest house. The damp smell of earth mixed with the sweet odor of jasmines came through the wire gauze door. In the front of the house, the servants had spread a large coir mat with a carpet on it. At one end of the carpet was a big cane chair, a table with a bottle of whiskey, a couple of tumblers, and plates of savoys. Several bottles of soda water stood in a row beneath the table. Hukum Chand shouted for his servant to get his bath ready and bring in hot water for shaving. He lit a cigarette and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Just above his head, two geckos were getting ready for a fight. They crawled towards each other, emitting little rasping noises. They paused with half an inch between them and moved their tails with slow, menacing deliberation, then came to a head-on collision. Before Hukum Chand could move away, they fell with a loud plop just beside his pillow. A cold, clammy feeling came over him. He jumped out of the bed and stared at the geckos. The geckos stared back at him, still holding on to each other by teeth, as if they were kissing. The bearer's footsteps broke the hypnotic stare with which the magistrate and the geckos had been regarding each other. The geckos ran down the bed and up the wall, back to the ceiling. Hukumchand felt as if he had touched the lizards, and they had made his hands dirty. He rubbed his hands on the hem of his shirt. It was not the sort of a dirt which could be wiped off or washed cleaned. The bearer brought a mug of hot water, and laid out the shaving gear on the dressing table. He put on a chair his master's clothes, a thin muslin shirt, a pair of baggy trousers strung with a peacock blue silken cord interwoven with silver thread. He brushed the magistrate's black pumps till they shone, and put them beside the chair. Hukumchand shaved and bathed with great care. After bathing, he rubbed skin lotion on his face and arms and dusted himself with perfumed talcum powder. He dabbed his fingers with eau de cologne. Brilliantine made his hair smooth and soggy and showed the white at the roots of it. He had not dyed it for a fortnight. He waxed his thick moustache and twirled it till the ends stiffly pointed to his eyes. The roots of his moustache also showed purple and white. He put on his thin muslin shirt, through which his Arctex vest showed clearly. The trousers fell in ordered starchly fold. He dabbed his clothes with a swab of cotton dipped in scent of musk rose. When he was ready, he looked up at the ceiling. The geckos were staring at him with their bright black pinpoint eyes. The American drove back into the driveway. Hukumchand went up to the wire gauge door, still waxing his moustache. Two men and women stepped out. One of the men carried a harmonium and the other a pair of drums. One of the women was old, while white hair dyed a rich henna orange. The other was a young girl whose mouth was bloated with betel leaf and who wore a diamond glistening on one side of her flat nose. She carried a small bundle which jingled as she stepped out of the car. The party went and squatted at the carpet. Hukumchand carefully examined himself in the mirror. He noticed the white at the roots of his hair and smoothed it back again. He lit a cigarette and in his customary manner carried the tin of the cigarette with a matchbox on it. He half opened the wire gauge door and shouted for his bearer to bring him whiskey, which he knew had already been put on the table. It was to warn the people outside of his coming. As if he came out, he let the door slam noisily. With slow, deliberate steps, punctuated by the creaking of his glossy pump, he walked up to the cane chair. The party stood up to greet the magistrate. The two musicians salaamed, bowing their heads low. The two old, toothless women broke into a sonorous sing-song of praise. May your fame and honor increase. May your pen write figures of thousands and hundreds of thousands. The young girl just stared at him with her large eyes lined with antimony and lamp-black. The magistrate made a gesture with his hands ordering them to sit down. The old woman's voice came down to a whimper. All four sat on the carpet. The bearer poured out the whiskey and soda for his master. Hukumchand took a large gulp and wiped his moustache with the back of his hand. He twirled the pointed end nervously. The girl opened her bundle and tied the ankle bells around her ankles. The harmonium player played a single note. His companion beat the drums all round the edges with the tiny mallet and tightened and loosened the leather thongs by hammering the ring of wooden block wedged between them. He beat the tout while skinned with his fingers till the drum were in key with the harmonium. The accompaniment was ready. The young girl spat out the beetle saliva and cleared her throat with a series of deep chesty coughs that brought up Legum. The old woman spoke. Cherisher of the poor, what does your honor fancy? Something classical, pakka, or a love song? No, nothing pakka. Something from the films, some good films song, preferably Punjabi. The young girl salaamed as your order. The Muslim musicians put their head together, and after a brief consultation with the girl, they began to play. The drum beats a preliminary tattoo and then softened down for the harmonium to join in. The two played for some time while the girl sat silently, looking bored and indifferent. When they finished the introductory piece, she blew her nose and cleared her throat again. She put her left hand on her ear and stretched the other towards the magistrate, addressing him in a shrill falsetto. All over mine, all over that art gone. I live but would rather die. I see not for the tears that flow. I breathe not for I sigh, as a month that loves the flame. Why that flame is done to death. Within myself have I lit a fire that now robes me of my breath. The nights I spend in counting stars, the day in dreams of day to be, and homewards thou they reign shall turn, thy moon fair face I shall again see. The girl paused. The musician started to play again for her to sing the refrain. Oh let my lover learn how the fires of separation burn. When the girl finished her song, Hukum Chand flung a 5 rupee note on the carpet. The girl and musician bowed their head. The hag picked up the money and put it in her wallet, proclaiming, May your ever rule, may your pen write hundreds of thousands, may the singing begin again. Hukum Chand poured himself a stiff whiskey and drank it in one gulp. He wiped his moustache with his hand. He did not have the nerve to take a good look at the girl. She was singing a song he knew well. He heard his daughter humming it. In the breeze is flying my wheel of red muslin. Oh sir, oh sir. Hukumchand felt uneasy. He took another whiskey and dismissed his conscience. Life was too short for people to have consciences. He started to beat time to the song by snapping his fingers and slapping his thighs to each other. Ho sir, ho sir. Twilight gave way to the dark of a moonless night. In the swamps by the river, frogs croaked, cicadas chirped in the reeds. The bearer brought out a hissing paraffin lamp which cast a bright bluish light. The frame of the lamp threw a shadow over Hukumchand. He stared at the girl who sat sheltered from the light. She was only a child and never not very pretty, just young and unexploited. Her breasts barely filled her bodice. They could not have known the touch of the male hand. The thought that she was perhaps younger than his own daughter flashed across his mind. He drowned it quickly with another whiskey. Life was like that. You took it as it came, shorn of silly conventions and values which deserved only lip worship. She wanted his money, and he, well, when all was said and done, she was a prostitute and looked it. The silver squeen on her black sari sparkled. The diamond in her nose glittered like a star. Hukumchand took another drink to dispel his remaining doubts. This time he wiped his moustache with his silk handkerchief. He began to hum louder and snapped his fingers with a flourish. One film song followed another till all the Indian songs set to tunes of tangos and sambas that Hukumchand knew were exhausted. Sing anything else you know, ordered the magistrate with loudy condescensions. Something new and gay. The girl started to sing a song which had several English words in it. Sunday after Sunday of my life. Hukumchand exploded with an appreciative wah wah. When the girl finished her song, he did not throw the 5 rupee note at her but asked her to come and take it from his hand. The old woman pushed the girl ahead. Go, the government sends for you. The girl got up, went to the table. She stretched out her hand to take the money. Hukumchand drew his and put the note on his hurt. He grinned lecherously. The girl looked at her companions for help. Hukumchand put the note on the table. Before she could reach it, he picked it up and again put it on his chest. The grin on his face became broader. The girl turned back to join the others. Hukumchand held out the note for the third time. Go to the government, pleaded the old woman. The girl turned round obediently and went to the magistrate. Hukumchand put his arm around her waist. You sing well. The girl gaped wide eyed at her companions. Government is talking to. Why don't you answer him? Scolded the old woman. Government, the girl is young and very shy. She will learn, she exclaimed. Hukum Chand put a glass of whiskey on the girl's lip. Drink a little, just a sip for my sake, he pleaded. The girl stood impassively without opening her mouth. The old woman spoke again. Government, government, she knows nothing about drink. She is hardly 16 and completely innocent. She has never been near a man before. I have reared her for your honor's pleasure. Then she will eat something even if she does not drink, said Hukumchand. He preferred to ignore the rest of the woman's speech. He picked up a meatball from the plate and tried to put it in the girl's mouth. She took it from him and ate it. Hukumchand pulled her onto his lap and began to play with her hair. It was heavy, oiled, and fixed in waves by gaudy celluloid hair clips. He took out a couple of pins and loosened the bun at the back. The hair fell about her shoulders. The musician and the old woman got up. Have we permission to leave? Yes, go. Driver will take you home. The old woman again set up a loud singing song. May your fame and honor increase. May your pen write figures of thousands, nay, hundreds of thousands. Hukumchand produced a wad of notes and put it on the table for her. Then the party went to car, leaving the magistrate with the girl in his lap and the bearer waiting for orders. Shall I serve dinner, sir? No, just leave the food on the table. We will serve ourselves. You can go. The bearer led out the dinner and retired to his quarters. Hukumchand stretched out his hand and put out the paraffin lamp. It went out with a loud hiss, leaving the two in the utter darkness, save for a pale yellow light that flickered from the bedroom. Hukumchand decided to stay out of doors. The good trains had dropped. The Mano Majra wagons was leaving the station for the bridge. It came up noisily, its progress marked by the embers which flew out of the funnel of the engine. They were stocking coal in the firebox. A bright red and yellow light travelled through the spans of bridge and was lost behind the jungle on the other side. The train's rumble got fainter and fainter. Its passing brought a feeling of privacy. The Hukumchand helped himself to another whiskey. The girl in his lap sat stiff and frigid. Are you angry with me? You don't want to talk with me? Asked Hukumchand, pressing her closer to him. The girl did not answer or look back at him. The magistrate was not particularly concerned with her reactions. He had paid for all that. He brought the girl's face nearer his own and began kissing on the back of her neck, and on her ears. He could not hear the goods train any more. It had left the countryside in utter solitude. Hukumchand could hear his breathing quicken. He undid the strap of the girl's bodice. The sound of the shot shattered the stillness of the night. The girl broke loose and stood up. Did you hear a shot? The girl nodded. Maybe a shikari, she answered, speaking to him for the first time. She refastened her bodice. There can't be any shikar on a dark night. Two stood in silence for some time, the man a little apprehensive, the girl relieved of the attention of a lover bread, whose breath smelled of whiskey, tobacco, and pyria. But the silence told Hukumchand that all was well. He took another whiskey to make assurance doubly sure. The girl realized that there was no escape. Must be a cracker. Somebody getting married or something, said Hukumchand, putting his arms around the girl. He kissed her on the nose. Let us get married too, he added with a leer. The girl did not answer. She allowed herself to be dragged onto table amongst plate covered with stale meatballs and cigarette ash. Hukumchand swept them off the table with his hand and went on with his love making. The girl suffered his pawing without a protest. He picked her up from the table and laid her on the carpet amongst the litter of tumblers, plates, and bottles. She covered her face with the loosened end of her sari and turned it sideways to avoid his breath. Hukumchand began fumbling with her dress. From Mano Majra came sounds of people shouting and agitated barking of dogs. Hukumchand looked up. Two shots rang out and silenced the barking and shouting. With a loud oath, Hukumchand left the girl. She got up, brushing and adjusting her sari. From the servant's quarter bearer and the sweeper came out carrying lanterns and talking excitedly. A little later the chauffeur drove the car into driveway, its headlight lighting up the front of the bungalow. The morning after the dacoity, the railway station was more crowded than usual. Some Mano Majrans had made a habit of being there to watch the 10:30 slow passenger train from Delhi to Lahore come in. They liked to see the few passengers who might get on or off at Mano Majra, and they also enjoyed endless arguments about how late the train was on a given day when it had last been on time. Since the partition of the country, there had been an additional interest. Now the trains were often 4 or 5 hours late and sometimes as many as 20. When they came, they were crowded with Sikh and Hindu refugees from Pakistan and with Muslims from India. People parked on the roofs with their legs dangling and or on bedstead wedged in between the bogies. Some of them rode precariously on the buffers. The train this morning was only an hour late, almost like pre-war days. When it steamed in, the crying of hawkers on the platform and the passengers rushing about and shouting to each other gave the impression that many people would be getting off, but when the guard blew his whistle for the departure, most of them were back on the train. Only a solitary Sikh peasant carrying an iron shod bamboo staff and followed by his wife with an infant resting on her hip remained with the hawkers on the platform. The man hoisted their rolled bedding on his head and held it there with one hand. In the other he carried a large tin of clarified butter. Bamboo staff he held in his armpit with one end trailing on the ground. Two green tickets stuck out beneath his moustache, with billowed from his upper lip onto his beard. The woman saw the line of faces peering through the iron railing of the station and drew her veil across her face. She followed her husband, her slippers sloshing on the gravel and her silver ornaments all a jingle. The station master plucked the tickets from the peasant's mouth and led the couple out of the gate, where they were lost in the tumult of greetings and embraces. The guard blew his whistle a second time and waved the green signal. Then from the compartment just began the engine, armed policemen emerged. There were 12 of them and a sub-inspector. They carried rifles and their Sam Brown belt were charged with bullets. Two carried chains and handcuffs. From the other end of the train, near the guard van, a young man stepped out. He wore a long white shirt, a brown waistcoat of coarse cotton, loose pajamas, and he carried a hold-all. He stepped gingerly off the train, pressing his tousled hair and looking all around. He was a small, slight man, somewhat effeminate in appearance. The sight of the policeman emboldened him. He hoisted the hold on his left shoulder and moved jauntily towards the exit. The villagers watched. The young man and police party moved from opposite direction towards the station master, who stood beside the gate. He had opened it wide for the police and was bowing obsequiously to the sub-inspector. The young man reached the gates first and stopped between the station master and the police. The station master quickly took the ticket from him, but the young man did not move on or make way for sub-inspector. Can you tell me, Station Master Sahib, if there is place I can stay in this village?